Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, December 22, 2022. New, this is my third YouTube channel. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share on YouTube and Rumble. So, some of my sources today are God in the Bible, Patriot Subscriber, American Military News, Newsweek, Judge Napolitano's interview of retired Army Colonel Douglas McGregor, BPEarthwatch, websites with national interest, a Daily Mail, Defense Post, SQ Steve Quayle's site with Strange Sounds, Hal Turner, Daily Mail, Pastor Paul Begley and Mike from around the world, Israeli News Live, Stephen Ben-Nun. So some of the things we'll be looking at: World War III, Russia plus China plus North Korea plus Iran versus NATO plus the US plus the UK. World War III. So some of the things we'll be talking about are recent meetings between President Putin and other high-ranking Russian government individuals with leader Lukashenko in Belarus, a recent meeting of the actor puppets JB and Z, and I'll go into detail about that. And Patriot, a weapon with secrets. So, let's get started. So we have and also, yeah, I'll be putting this out too. Okay. For some reason, this is a relevant story. It's coming out of American Military News. There was on December 19, there was a shooting. Oh yeah, and by the way, just yesterday or so, there was a practice going on in Houston, Texas, in downtown, of a potential shooter. Well, we people who are in the know understand when there's a practice, there's a real event coming soon. Yeah, so we need to pray about that. Okay, so this was a shooting, and it was at Fort Stewart base that's in Georgia, and we had like a specialist shooting a sergeant, and they were out of the 3rd Army Infantry 2nd Armor Brigade combat team, and the sergeant who was shot was a hazmat specialist in biochemical radiation and so forth. So Commander Colonel Ethan Diven, said we will certainly miss this individual's contributions. So I just was prompted by God to include information about this. I think we'll be hearing about this in the future, so I'll definitely keep that little note. All right, and we have this coming out from Newsweek. Russia. All right. Russia has a new strategic bomber. And oh, by the way, the recent line of bombers, I think that's the B-2 Spirit, that the report had come out that all those bombers, 20, 25 of them, had been taken offline for use because there were some problems with them. Well, a report came out, said, no, we're going to go ahead and use those too. All right. So Russia has a new strategic bomber. It's called the Tu-160M. And it had its first successful flight. It was first tested in January, but just a couple of days ago, it had its first successful flight. And it's called, Russia calls it the White Swan, and NATO calls it Blackjack, and it competes with the U.S. Lancer. Okay. Now we had an interview of Judge Napolitano of retired Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor. And he's bringing this out. Poland is going to begin a draft, and this is males 15 years old and up to about 50. And they're going to, in 2023, draft an army of 200,000 out of Poland. And we have this, that Ukraine General Zelensky is asking NATO and the U.S. for more equipment, of course. Ukraine, bottomless pit. But we know all the money and the weapons don't go to the front line and don't go to help the Ukraine government and don't go to help the Ukraine people. They go in the pockets. And then the weapons are sold, most of them on the black market. Okay. Yeah. And General Macgregor is reporting a number for his information about the size that Ukraine still has in their military of being 194,000. Now we have this, Duran, that's Alexander Mercouris, he's a journalist out of London, and Christeferou, he's a journalist out of Greece, and they together have a report they call Duran. Okay, so there's been a meeting in Belarus, and it was just a couple of years ago when I was taking a nap. I heard that this word popped in my mind, Lukashenko. And I looked it up. It is a type of hat, but then I found out later it's the leader of Belarus. So God knows the name of the leader of Belarus. Okay, so there was a meeting in Belarus. President Putin, Foreign Minister Lavrov, and the Minister of Defense in Russia, General Shoigu. And they met with Lukashenko and all, President Lukashenko and all of the top leaders of the Belarus government. My perception is these were not, it's possible they could have been the flesh and blood individuals, but I tend to doubt it, especially for President Putin. I think he would have had a double or a clone. What was the purpose of the face-to-face meeting was to pass secret information that's not being passed electronically or otherwise. And then also we have this. Zelensky is asking NATO and the U.S. for $100 billion per month. You American people, we want to steal every penny you have, and in the spring we want to come for all the money in your bank accounts too and put you on a digital bank account tied to your social score plus. Okay, deep state. All right, so then we have this coming out. The Z was going to meet with JV in Washington, D.C. Okay, no. We have JB and Z. Now Z, some reports were, it's his first foreign trip, but hey, he has a $34 million mansion he's been staying in Miami, Florida. He's here. And we don't know whether there were, why would you have two actor puppets have a face-to-face meeting? What's the point? I submit most likely Z used his green screen he has in his mansion, and then it was all put together electronically. For sure, it was not in Washington, D.C., which has been empty since, I think that was January 2020, 2021. Empty. Washington is empty. The White House, the Capitol building, the Supreme Court, it's all been empty for a couple of years. Yeah. Now, where would a likely place be for the putting together and the recording? Probably Perry Tyler's White House studio that's located in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where most people who are reporting on this, who understand what's going on, think it's probably in Atlanta. So that takes care of the logistics of the meeting now. And also the double, Nancy Pelosi. And who knows where the flesh and blood Nancy is these days. Supposedly had Z, the actor puppet for the deep state in Ukraine, talked to the deep state actor puppets in the U.S. Congress. Most of them are in the pocket of the deep state. What was the point of that? Maybe to give some fodder for the mainstream media to put out on their propaganda channels. Yeah, so that's going on. And at any rate, the U.S. Supposedly agreed to give $2 billion plus weapons and so on. But we know that $2 billion doesn't go to the Ukraine government or people. It goes in the pockets of the deep state. It's just cycled around. Now, we have this. Hal Turner, formerly is 15 years with the FBI, but has contacts with the FBI and CIA and gets information. Now, what's coming into, let's draw a map. Here is Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, and this is all part of Russia. We have Belarus up here. We've got Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Kaliningrad, a Russian enclave down here, Poland, Romania, Greece, and Turkey. All right, now, all right, so what happened in this recent meeting between Russia and Belarus, President Putin and President Lukashenko, is trainloads of equipment, Russian equipment, S-400s, Iskander missiles, 70 T-80 tanks. And the meeting was between President, Putin, Foreign Minister Lavrov, General Shoigu, and President Lukashenko. Now, Belarus is also receiving 20 infantry fighting vehicles, and Russia is taking down all comm and energy installations inside Ukraine, preparatory to a massive offensive, wall to wall inside Ukraine. And Colonel Douglas McGregor says for sure they'll take Nikolaev, Odessa. That's my understanding. It's going to be all of Ukraine. This will be a slice for Belarus. Poland may take some of this or may not. Belarus may take all of that. But there'll be Belarus between Russia and Poland and Romania because those are NATO nations. Okay. Now the Patriot missiles. So we know the U.S. is sending Patriot missiles. And they're sending them to Poland. Now, in my previous video, I gave some details about Patriots. They can be mobile and fire from ships, and they can fire missiles, and they can take down missiles incoming. But Mike from around the world says they also have some secret capabilities. Well, inquiring minds now want to know, what are those secrets? So that's going on. Yeah, Oh, yeah. And Greece is asking Ukraine, as if Ukraine is in control of Patriot missiles. Greece wants the Patriot missiles. Does Greece understand that to operate one Patriot missile requires 90 U.S. military trained soldiers? No. And what would Greece do with the Patriot missile? Put it on the black market, of course. All right. And now we have this. This is from Duran, talking about Sunak, the non-citizen leader of the UK, England, saying the way to save England, and we understand that the people of England have a bottom line tax of 1/3 of all of their income, plus they're now adding new taxes on that 1/3 of their income to cover rising energy costs and billing the Ukraine people for their part for the energy they use and increasing the cost of food by about 40%. Talk about a plan to destroy a people. Well, Sunak says the way to save Ukraine is to give more money to the way to save England is to give more money to Ukraine. Well, of course he does. He's a deep state person. He gets his part. All right. Now, we have this. And I'll put this out. Let me do another map. I think this is important. And it's just now being published. Well, actually, I could have left that. Okay, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson. We have up here the Arctic. And we have over here, we've got Finland, Sweden, Norway. Now, Norway up here in the Arctic, we have Greenland right here. We've got this little island, Svalbard. Now, I thought it strange a few months ago when this little country, Norway, was saying to Russia, yeah, you can't go out here to this little island and resupply your people who've been there for 40 years engaged in a mining operation. I thought, what is Norway doing? That was a few months ago. Well, it seems like in January of 2022, now let's recall the special military operation began in February about 2022. Now, before that, NATO had amassed on this border 120,000 troops whose job it was to sweep in here and slaughter all the Slavic people. Oh, and the Slavic people have an unusual genetic quality. They have RH X factor, which makes them immune to radiation. And the past, that Chernobyl so-called accident, was really a test to see how well the Slavic people would be affected by radiation. That information comes from Peter the Insider, director of a 12th division of the ACIO. That's a division of the U.S. federal government, NSA. Yeah. All right. So that happened. But in January then, so the NATO troops would have been amassed. They were amassed. That's why Russia came in a few days before their operation, a couple of days before their operation was to go live. Now, so in January of 2022, in this area, we have cables, underwater cables that hook NASA, NOAA, and other U.S. government and other governments globally to real-time satellite surveillance. So we know, here's the Arctic, and I'm assuming that the sky in this area would be clear of a lot of different ambient light, ambient chemicals like that. that would block transmission. So I'm assuming that's why here they are hooked up to the satellites in the sky. So in January of 2022, those cables were cut. And there was a Russian fishing boat in the area, and they took them in and questioned them. It wasn't the Russian fishing boat. They let them go. There was no evidence. I mean, they were fishing people. No, I'm sure that most likely Russia did do this, but they did it using special forces. And this was just published December 21 yesterday. So for some reason, this information is coming out. Both sides play a game of put information out, put disinformation out like that. Okay. Now, BPEarthwatch has information. It comes from a Greece-based news site. And this talks about the Z meeting with JB and $2 billion from the U.S. taxpayers stolen out of our pockets. U.S. to give Ukraine Patriot missiles. France to give missiles, the SAP-T, the Gros-Tal, and the Caesar. And those are French missiles. And then NATO and the U.S. and the U.K. totally independent, certainly in the U.S., of any input of our so-called Congress, but at least they could be making a symbolic move there, and certainly not informing or involving the American people. No, the U.S. shadow government, the U.S. shadow military, inclusive in NATO, says to Ukraine, oh, it's okay for you to make strikes deep inside Russia. But guess what, folks? The missiles inside Ukraine that can make those strikes deep inside Russia are U.S. weapons that have to be operated by U.S. soldiers. So that's going on. And so they're going to be using different weapons. This is a U.S. MGM-140 that has a range of 190 miles or 306 kilometers, can be operated mobile or from sea. Also an ATACMS that has a range of 310 kilometers or 193 miles. Now we get to something really juicy. All right. Here is Greece down here, including the island of Crete. And this is Turkey. Oh, NATO, we know, since 2014, with the shadow U.S. State Department headed up by Victoria Nuland, who stood outside the Kiev capital in 2014 while the shadow U.S. government took down, performed a coup, taking out the elected Ukraine president who was aligned with Russia, and put a sniper on top of the Capitol building and shot down the Ukraine citizens who were against this coup. And Victoria Nuland, we understand from a Patriot subscriber whose wife's family lives in Ukraine, Victoria Nuland passed out cookies while the sniper was on the roof shooting down those Patriot Ukraine citizens. Yeah, that started NATO and the U.S. in 2014. Now, so is it any wonder that the U.S., since about 2020 or 2021, has been conducting and bases located on the main Greek island and Crete, a smaller Greek island, They've been working on drones preparatory to kicking off World War III. NATO, the US, the UK plus. Okay. And they have the drones they're using are called Reaper. And so they're called Reaper and Eagle. And these are US drones. Now, and they've been working on the Hellfire missiles used by these two drones. That's what they've been perfecting. And they now have perfected them to be able to travel 3 times what they did in the past when launched by these two type of drones. So we'll see the distance. So, and the purpose of the Hellfire missiles is to take out things like tanks, armored vehicles, plus. Okay. So yeah, national interest. The Hellfire missiles now have been perfected to be launched by these drones and can travel 3 times what they could in the past. So let's find out what that distance is and see how easy it would be for the US to launch deep inside Russia. So the range is 20,000 kilometers or 12,428 miles up to 33,000 kilometers. This would be dependent upon also lift they get from wind, other factors, which would be miles, 20,506 miles. Now, wouldn't you just leave your drones in this protected area then if you can launch them this distance? Because from here, you can launch deep inside Russia. So we have some distances. So Greece to Russia has a distance of 6,000 kilometers or about 3,700 miles. So wouldn't you leave the drones here where they're protected and then launch into Russia? I think so. So Greece, yeah, you're involved too. So that's going on. Yeah. And now we have this off-grid desert farming. And so we have, yeah, Medvedev. I was talking about another meeting, and this is the head of the Russian Security Council, Medvedev. He was a former president of Russia, had a meeting in China a couple of days ago while President Putin was in Belarus. And now this information is being put out publicly that joining, okay, to supply troops, equipment, to fight with Russia. Public declaration, China, North Korea, and Iran. Now, on China, supposedly in this underground area, we have Crimea. We have an underground area here is already about 200,000 Chinese troops, North Korean troops, and now Iranian troops. So they're in this area. So we would have to say maybe about 250,000 of this group. And this will be combined with the number that is coming from Colonel Douglas Macgregor plus other sources of 570,000 Russian. And we have the Chechens, 70,000. This 570,000 for Russia may also include the Luhansk People's Republic and the Donetsk People's Republic, who, when they were annexed into Russia, their soldiers became part of the Russian military. Now, the U.S. is also moving into recently, they moved in 700 tanks, 2,400 armored vehicles, and there are 40,000 U.S. troops in Poland. So that's going on. So we see that both sides are getting their troops ready and in position. And now we have this. So Hal Turner is reporting also the U.S. has fired inside Russia. They fired inside Belgorod. So that's a town. It's also the name of Russian submarines. Okay, Belgorod. So on December 19, there were 2 planes that went from Ukraine into Belgorod, and they had, and Russia shot down the planes, and they also shot down the missiles and identified them as 4 U.S. AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles. And they took down the Ukraine MiG-29 and Su-27. So that's going on. Oh, Organic Prepper is reporting inside Switzerland that's having problems with energy in this coming cold front. They're telling the 6 million owners of electric cars they can't use their cars. All right. So now from this area, Bakhmut, we have a lot of Ukraine troops there. So from Bakhmut to Belgorod is a distance of 147 miles or 276 kilometers. But they used the short range 100 kilometer or 62-mile missiles, and they flew them into Belgorod. Okay. So now the Daily Mail is reporting this. President Putin, Russia, has now a standing order of 350,000 to 1.5 million. So we're getting a number much higher than this that are already positioning along the lines. But their standing army now is in the millions. Their Navy has hypersonic missiles. And Russia also has a type of missile they're putting in place, the Zircon, that can travel 7,000 miles per hour, and the range is 620 miles. That range can't be correct with that speed. So, 7,000 miles per hour. That's pretty fast. All right. So Belarus we'll take this out. Get rid of this part of the story. So we have Belarus. Now Belarus is now practicing putting troops on the border with Ukraine. And also we have Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Kaliningrad. This is a Russian enclave. Belarus is practicing putting their troops on the Ukraine border, plus Lithuania, plus Poland. So I guess Poland must come in here. and meet up with Belarus. Okay. So now another number for troops is 575,000 troops, and that includes the 70 Czech, and 200,000 Chinese troops, and North Korea and Iran. This sounds like something like they're getting ready for something like an Operation Clean Sweep. All right. All right. And now we have this. Yeah, NATO and US, UK. Okay, strikes deep inside Russia. And I submit a logical launching would be from Greece and the island of Crete. Okay. And inside Belarus is positioned these new Zircon missiles from Russia that can travel at the speed of 7,000 miles per hour. We also have somewhere in the world 2 Russian subs called the Belgorod. I did a previous report on the Belgorod. Now, so the 2 subs, Russian, Belgorod, are the largest subs ever made. They're something like 600 plus feet long. They can produce a tsunami as well as launch missiles, but they can produce tsunamis 1,000 plus feet. Yeah, or 305 meters. So that's going on. Yeah. All right. So now we need, we see that different forces are positioning hundreds of thousands of soldiers here from multiple countries, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and up here. We don't know exactly how many troops are here. We know 40,000 U.S. troops supposedly are here, with Poland about 30,000, Romania about 20,000, and we know that NATO has been building this up. This might be as much as 30,000 now. But I submit to you that NATO and the UK and the US shadow parts have somewhere, I believe, lots of other troops and weapons. So that's going on. So now a short prayer. This is a warrior prayer. Father, prepare us for battle. We put on the full armor of God and ask Yahweh, commander of the angel armies, to go before us and smite our enemies. We put you in memory, Father, of your magnificent power shown over Jericho, detailed in the Bible in Joshua chapters 1 to 6. Joshua had 40,000 soldiers and priests, and they were to march around Jericho once a day with the soldiers silent and the priests carrying the ark and blowing trumpets for 6 days, once around it. On the 7th day, they were to, the soldiers and the trumpets and the ark march around 7 times, and the walls fell down. And we know that you, Father, ordered all inside the city to be destroyed, except Rahab and her family, because she had helped the spies sent out by Joshua. And we know they were all to be destroyed because they were genetically modified, as is the case of many hundreds of thousands inside Ukraine. We pray, Father, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And we thank you, Father, Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there. Continue to pray. God is in charge, and he is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.